Hello everybody, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. Got a little video today. I'm going to cover quite a bit of information, and this is a Facebook post I made yesterday, and actually I made this from the grocery store yesterday afternoon. I was walking out of the store and this guy introduced himself, Brian Hillman. I had recognized that name because that guy had threatened me a couple years ago, you know, and you can read what it says there. He says, watch your back, and I said, is that a threat? He said, yes it is. I take all threats serious, you know, because I'm the survivor of a murder attempt, and the would-be killers that come to my home, cut my phone lines, and shot me are still free, you know. And I've said this many times: the person that shot me wasn't in any danger. I didn't even know they were there. You know, they could have left without shooting me. They came here to kill me. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about that. It was premeditated, cold-blooded murder, and God saved my life. So one thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna show you he ain't the first one to threaten me, and so we're gonna go. I'm gonna show you some of the threats and warnings that I've got, you know, that I've collected, and there's more of them, but I'm going to try to run through these relatively quick. This guy, Tim Battles, was his name here. He said, he says, you best mind your effing business, or these effers will burn your body in a 50-gallon drum. Mind your fucking program, okay? And so that was Tim Battles, you know. And that was a real interesting comment about burn your body, right? This is just I compiled several comments right here. Erica Camille, fast forward 2 weeks, Mr. Buddy Webb is nowhere to be seen. No one has seen or heard from him in several days. Police are looking for leads in his whereabouts. Kathy Backus, he's going to end up being in a hole. Randy Wallace, you better stop worrying or they're going to get the snitch. So if somebody breaks into your home, shoots you by surprise, you report that to law enforcement, you're a snitch, you know. You know, that's not what that's not my understanding. A snitch is where you turn in your drug dealer for, you know, that when you get busted for drugs, you know, that's what a snitch is. A snitch isn't you know, a homeowner minding their own business, and Charles Manson breaks in their home and for, you know, on a murderous, you know, mission, you know. And so anyway, here's another one, Hilda Beaverhausen, and let's see what this one says. She's saying here, adds to this about Haley Dunn. Adkins in jail now. He will roll, whatever. And we will see if anything he said is true. That is, if you aren't dead from being poisoned. And well, that was an interesting comment, since how, you know, I'm a stage 5 kidney failure after, you know, multiple times contacting, you know, law enforcement saying they're poisoning me in my house. They're putting some kind of gas in the air, you know. I have a video called Death Threats and Stalking, and this was a comment from our guy Max Power, but we will get you sometime. And so that was real clear there at on that death threat. This one I've shared probably the most of all of them. Lance Eggleston. Remember, we know who you are. We know where you sleep. We have access to your residence at all times. No one will ever believe your story. We will come again. I'm like, are you a good guy or a bad guy? I don't know who you are, you know. And then he just says, you will be silenced, not if, but when. And I'm like, well, when are you going to murder me, Lance? You know, I mean, because you made that real clear. The other thing is, nobody will ever believe your story. We have access. That's confirming the hidden access to this house, you know. I've used that before as another confirmation of the tunnels and this house being rigged, you know. Shannon Jeter, this is real interesting here. And he's warning me. He says, buddy, cops can kill you and get away with it. Be careful and don't make them mad, you know. Sell the house. Okay, so there we go. It's all about the house. Why is it about the house? Because the house is rigged, because there's an underground home in the backyard where they have an oil show parties where they murder a little girl. That's why it's about the house, you know. Oh, the hell, they'll probably give you a lot of money for it to get you to stop publicizing their business, you know. What business am I publicizing? Little girl being murdered because she wouldn't prostitute in an underground oil show party? Is that what we're talking about? Is that the business that I'm publicizing? And then you go buy you another home, you know. And I always document any kind of move comments. That's a move comment, I call it. Here's another one, Joe Mireless, and he's telling me, says, you got two choices. You can either move or meet God early, you know. I think that one's pretty clear, right? Oh, here's another one. This guy's creative. Okay, the ghost of Billy Webb's what he said. Billy Webb stepped ahead and bumped his little lion head. Billy Webb is ahead. No silly Billy, you're fucking dead. Okay, poem by Jimmy Jangles. That was sent to me on YouTube, right? Sounds like a death threat to me. Oh, here's another one. Jennifer Lawson right here. That boy gonna disappear. They'll say suicide. That's how it goes. There's another one. You can see why I document these. And then here's some just really warnings where this Sherry Hendrickson says, be careful, these people are dangerous, And here's another Amanda Stone. Buddy, please be careful. They know you know. And I worry how far they will go to shut you down. Please just be careful and watch your back. I'm begging you. This whole damn situation scares the life out of me. And I worry for you and your safety. And that, not so much a death threat, of a warning of how dangerous these criminals are, which I know they broke into my home, right? And then they use secret police, right, to cover up this premeditated murder attempt. Yeah, they're extremely, extremely dangerous. This video, though, like I said, I got threatened yesterday by Brian Hillman, right? That's where I started right here, and that's what I want to talk about, okay? Brian Hillman, and I'm gonna read that to you here in a minute, because I was asked as soon as I post that, is right here. This is a short read, but it's really important, and there's a video on it, too. I'm going to show you. There's a video called Motive for Murder, Matt Hyman, on this video. But let me just tell you this short story. I posted this yesterday. I wrote this and posted this yesterday. I said, Brian Hillman is a landman that came to my Facebook and threatened me a couple of years ago in an attempt to stop me from asking questions about Matt Hyman's death. Okay. Just yesterday, he called me crazy on Nextdoor, but I didn't reply, and I reported him to Nextdoor, and I blocked him. Today, he introduced himself at the grocery store and told me to watch my back. I asked him if that was a threat, and he said, yes, it was. I took this threat very serious. Here's the rest of the story. On January 14, 2012, this is 2 weeks before I was ambushed and shot with my phone lines cut in a premeditated murder attempt, I noticed that somebody was trying to come into my home. I had just tear gassed the attic a few days earlier, and I was concerned about retribution. I got this idea to put electricity on my doorknob because I didn't want them to kick in the door and kill me, like I believe happened to Mike Lawhon, the guy that lived here before me. I found that, when I first looked at the home, I got a picture of the back door, October 1st, 2008. 28 days later, when I met the home inspector here, the doorknob was kicked out. Somebody had kicked the door in, and it's documented on the home inspection report. During that time, so that proved there was a home invasion during the month of October 2008, and Mike Lawhon died on October 12th with conflicting, stories of where he died at. I believe they kicked in the door and killed him, and that's what I was concerned was going to happen to me that night. And so I believe that building this safe room by putting electricity on the doorknob, that was my bedroom door. It wasn't my front door. And these people didn't come in from the front door. They were extra locks on the doors. They came in from the same underground trapdoor entrance that I was shot from. The same entrance that Davis, Dickie, Chatwell, and Angel and Hale came in from on the night that I was shot. I believe that building the safe room saved my life, that night, but I now suspect that Matt Hyman died here. After I returned from the hospital, I thought about this, and I decided to look at the obituaries, and I saw where a young landman attorney named Matt Hyman had died on the same day, okay? And it makes sense that landman would be connected with the underground oil show parties, and he wasn't the only one that had been on my radar, okay? Landmen are they're like the car salesman of the oil field, They're the wheeler dealers between the producer and the big oil companies, and so they're making the deals and all that. And so anyway, I'm moving on. I asked if Matt Hyman died at my home on Facebook, and come to find out his former sister-in-law was my nurse. I'm going to show you that in a minute. I asked her questions to try and eliminate him as a suspect. Okay? I first asked how he died, because if he died in a car wreck, then I knew that he hadn't died in my home. But she told me that he died of a surprise heart failure that nobody knew he had. Electricity stops the heart. I then asked when he died, because if he died in the morning, I knew it wasn't him, but she said that he died that evening, which is when I put electricity on the doorknob. And then two of Matt's friends came to my Facebook and threatened me. One of them was Chris Mertz, who was a landman for my company, and the other was Brian Hillman, another landman. Okay. Brian contacted me on private messenger and threatened to sue me if I asked any more questions. He told me that he married Matt's widow, Leslie, who was the only witness to Matt's surprise death. Okay, I told Brian about the young girl that was murdered at the oil show party, and he says, I'm not interested in your Reddick bullshit. I then asked him where he was at on January 28, 2012, the night that I was shot by surprise, and he said, I don't know. I'm going to show you a screenshot of that in a minute. At the emergency room after I survived the murder attempt, I was telling MPD Detective Rosie Rodriguez that I had tie-wired my spare door shut after recognizing that somebody had been in my home once again, and her tone of voice changes, and she hatefully asked me, did you put electricity on it? This odd and out-of-place question told me that this dirty cop somehow knew about me stopping the home invasion from 2 weeks earlier. That was on the 14th, the day that Matt Hyman died, but the police hadn't been called on that night. She somehow knew about it, and she was pissed about it. This was further confirmation that Matt had died in my home, and I suspected the people in this crime ring were somehow trying to blame me, the guy whose home they had broken into. I wondered if one of the motives for murder attempt on my life was because they were trying to blame me for Matt dying while breaking into my home, as in revenge. 2 weeks earlier, Matt dies in my home while they're breaking into my home. It later dawned on me that if his friends had called 911 after he was electrocuted, then that may have saved Matt's life. But if they did that, then they would be arrested. Okay, it looks like they decided to let their friend die. My guess is they had to make up some lame excuse for him dying at 33 years old of a sudden heart failure to keep the truth from coming out. The people that were in my home that day came in from the same underground trapdoor that I shot from 2 weeks later, and I know this because all of my other doors were secured with extra locks due to the crimes. I wonder if Brian Hillman was with Matt Hyman in my hallway when he got electrocuted. I wonder if he was under my home and with the people that shot me 2 weeks later. I have a video showing the evidence and talking about this called Motive for Murder, Matt Hyman's Death. Okay, and I think I'm going to show you this here in a minute, and so we'll just skip that. Interestingly here, and I'm going to jump over here. This was another comment from last night talking about motive for murder. Okay, and that was one of the possible motives for murder. This guy Leon, he asked me, he says, why do they want you dead? Okay. And then I replied back. I said, nobody's been arrested, so I can't answer that question. But there's some very good possible motives for murder, So there's a lot of the why questions. It just can't be answered until we arrest them, Why did it's like Sharon Tate being murdered by Manson and his gang when they went to her house and murdered her, Well, when they found the body of Sharon Tate, well, why did they do it? Nobody knows until you arrest Manson and ask him, You don't know why, All you know is it happened, right? We know that she's dead. We know Charles Manson and his gang killed her, but you got to arrest them before you figure out why, okay? So, and this is compared to Manson because they came to my home to kill me, right? I mean, except these guys are like Charles Manson on steroids because they got a secret police gang to help them murder people. Okay, the ex-wife is alleged to be involved in the shooting by her former boyfriend, and she stood to gain the most from my death. She also took my life insurance books from my home right before I was shot. I just filed divorce 5 days earlier. I just have the feeling that she isn't a ringleader and is more of a pawn. Okay. I'm listing out some possible motives for murder. It's known that I trapped a burglar in my guest bathroom on that day, and I was on the other side of the door with a gun with every right to protect my life and property. This was a dire situation for the criminals because if they turned themselves in, then it would expose the underground homes and many other crimes and murders. It's now known that police were under my home, and I believe it was police that let out the burglar. It may have been police that tried to murder me, okay? And so that could have been the motive for murder was that burglar getting trapped on the day that I shot. I unknowingly trapped a burglar with Tower. I had been tear gassing my attic and contacting law enforcement about these crimes. I was a problem for them, and a threat to exposing their underground crime operation, which I suspect was a moneymaker, maybe an illegal casino, brothel, etc. Human trafficking, sex trafficking, maybe illegal immigration. The ex-wife had told me before the murder attempt that a group of doctors were killing people for profit, but she left out the part of her brother-in-law being a doctor. Come to find out, he was my doctor on the night that I was shot, and which is when it's proven that my x-rays were faked. I highly suspect these doctors were involved in the plan of my murder attempt. I had found out about that young girl that was murdered at the 2010 oil show party, that high-level police there, okay? That, Angie had told me that. And 2 weeks before the murder attempt, I believe a young landman attorney named Matt Hyman died in my hallway after I put electricity on my bedroom doorknob. I was later threatened by his friends who were desperate to stop me from asking questions. One of them, Brian Hillman, threatened me at the grocery store yesterday. And he said, "Watch your back." I said, "Is that threat?" He said, "Yes, it is." I said, maybe the motive for murder was revenge, as they blame me for Matt dying while breaking into my home. And now I found out about all these other homes that are rigged like mine. 50 other homeowners documenting reporting people in the attic, and I was ambushed and shot and reporting people in the attic. So anyway, there's some of the possible motives for murder. Like I said, here's a video on that from Matt Hyman called "Motive for Murder." So this video is really about the Matt Hyman and Hillman's post. Okay, so I'm going to go over just some of these proof slides and we'll be done. Okay, here's the obituary. And like I said, I got out of the hospital after being ambushed and shot with my phone lines cut. Right, that's premeditated. They came to my home with guns. These are literally cold-blooded killers. There ain't no doubt about that. This guy's 33 years old, and I saw this, and he died, he died on the same day that I had put electricity in my doorknob. And then I noticed that he was a landman. Well, all of a sudden, red flags started going up, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, wow, And then I also found out where he was attorney, and he worked for Cotton Bledsoe Ty in Dawson. And that's the city's attorney. And I thought that was interesting. I know when I went to my attorney for that protective order hearing, she told me, she says, "There's not a lawyer in this town who's going to help you." I thought, what? I'm the ultimate victim with all the evidence, There's not a lawyer in this town who's going to help me? Well, what if a lawyer got killed in my home? And I'm suspecting these lawyers might know about the $1 million underground homes. Like I said, once again, possible illegal casino, brothel whatsoever. This is the communications I had with Natalie Sherry Hyman. She was my nurse, right? And that's why I was asking her questions, and she's telling me he died from a genetic heart defect that nobody knew he had, And I was like, was he messing with electricity that day? It only takes 100 milliamps to stop the heart, No, he wasn't, and here we go. Well, what time did he die, And because that's what I was saying earlier, I'm trying to eliminate him, but everything she told me didn't eliminate him. It was at night. He was at home with his wife and kids. So that's what I was saying. Leslie was the witness, of his death here. Okay. Here, I don't know. Okay, so I posted that on Facebook, as I said, and then here we go. These were in public. This Brian Hillman, I didn't even know this guy. This was several years ago. It says, "You're barking up the right tree. I suggest you take this down immediately. Read the direct message that I sent you." And we're going to look at that in a minute. That's what I was telling you. This guy threatened me, a few years ago, and then threatened me again yesterday. Are they always threatening you like this, buddy? That's Maria. She's looking at, what's wrote here. And then here's Chris Mertz here. I worked with you and at DCP Midstream. And if it would have been me, you would have answered face to face like a man. He's threatened me. You got the balls to post your crazy shit, and you got to have balls to accept consequences. So I took that as a direct threat. Like I said, this guy was a landman, and in my backyard is an underground facility where they're having oil show parties, right? And, my company, DCB Midstream, our booth at the oil show was taken care of by the commercial group. And the former director, Ken Slager of our commercial group, used to live across the street from my home. Actually, Chris Mertz would have reported up to Ken Slager, and because that's how it works, all them landmen, they reported up to the commercial group. And like I said, that's who had the booth. And then in my backyard's an underground home where they're having the oil show parties, Okay. And so here is a message that the DM from Brian Hillman, and this is, back a couple years ago, and he's telling me that the widow of Matt's widow, Leslie Reed Hyman, is he's married to now. And I thought that was interesting because, she's the only supposed witness, I've wondered, if, that she was basically told to sit down and shut up, and if that is, then that makes her a party, if she knows something about mass death, if he didn't die of a surprise heart failure sitting in her living room that night, then she needs to go talk to people because she's risking prison time. She's risking her kids' lives then, and so I thought this was interesting too. You could see the story about his cause of death. It was arrhythmia. My wife started to push for different types in high school. There's a news story on CBS 7. The CBS 7 story that is hidden from you all this information about homeowners breaking in the public. They've got me blocked. I kid you not. I'm the guy that, identified all these other homeowners reporting people in the attic after I'm ambushed and shot. I'm the one that saved up disability money, paid to get the secret police identified, and the press is who hid that from the public, or you got Sheriff candidate Joe Lozano saying Painter used to hang out in underground homes here during the election. They hid that from the public. That's CBS 7 plus the other news stories here, And so anyway, my reply, Mr. Hillman, there's no need to threaten the crippled crime victim for asking questions, right? And I'm a Christian, a man of integrity. The facts are clear that 2 weeks after this night, my phone lines were cut and I was then ambushed, shot, and left for dead. A gang of still secret police were caught on camera coming up this capital attempted murder. So they were still secret when I wrote that, right? And they, I didn't figure out who they were until 2018, 6 years after they were caught on camera. I have a $2,000 reward offered for their identity. Furthermore, the evidence seems to show that this same crime ring was involved in the murder of the last homeowner, Mike Lawhon. I noticed that you're a landman. Have you ever heard of sex trafficking being associated with the deals that you guys make? It's infamous, right? My theory is these human traffickers are connected with the oil field, which would explain the racketeering that has gone on, such as theft, extortion, murder, etc. And I put a video here about the secret police right there. I didn't mention the little girl. I thought I did, but I didn't mention the oil show parties, right? Okay, you missed this part of my story. I'm not claiming that Mr. Hyman died in my home, but you're just asking you what if. I'm trying to solve the crimes that have been committed against me and stop these killers from killing more people. This is honorable and noble, right? I'm not interested, this is what Brian talked, I'm not interested in your Reddick bullshit. I'm interested in you taking stuff down that has nothing to do with what happened to you. The only threats that you're going to receive from me are legal, okay? So here we go. That's what I was saying. They're desperate to stop me from asking questions. And I have the right to ask questions. I'm the survivor of a murder attempt, I said, perhaps I could ask you in advance what questions that I'm allowed to ask so I could get your approval before posting on my personal Facebook page. I'm being facetious there, right? Do I need your permission to ask a question? Are you going to sue me for asking a question? That's what I said. And so then I'm asking him, I said, where were you at on January 28, 2012? 2 weeks after Matt Hyman died, that the night I'm ambushed and shot, my phone lines cut. And he says, I don't know. Okay. And so that was Brian Hillman's, and very interesting finding out that he was married to the widow, right? The only witness, Matt Hyman's surprise death, right here. This is where I just found on the internet, and I was just telling people at the time, because see, I used to do electrical work. I know this from safety, that electrical shot with low voltage current with amps as low as 60 milliamps can cause, ventricular fibrillation of the heart. This results in cardiac arrest. And the other thing that I tell people is that electricity will stop the heart. That's what it does, because it's electrical impulses that beat the heart, right? But also electricity will start the heart. So, what you do, if somebody is electrocuted, you immediately start CPR, right? So the brain doesn't lose the oxygen, and you get EMS coming with their defibrillator, and that is going to shock the heart, right? And then that'll start it back up. Many times you can save people that have been electrocuted if you hurry up, get EMS there, get that defibrillator on them, and restart the heart with electricity, okay? And I believe what happened is the people that were with his friends that were with Matt Hyman breaking into my home that day, they grabbed that doorknob not knowing there was electricity on it, right? Saw their friend fall to the ground right there and panicked. Instead of calling EMS, which would have got them arrested, then they let him die. They let it. And I'm real kind of sad, because I had hoped that Matt's family would just look at this, ask questions, because that's obviously what happened, and that they love their son or family member enough to say something. Go, no, that's not what happened, and actually blame the people that are really responsible for Matt's death, and that's his friends that were with him breaking into my home. Okay. This is part of that CBS 7 I've got this somewhere saved, on the little video, and see what happens is they, if they had reported this, right, then it would expose the $1 million underground homes, the tunnels, all the other homes that are rigged, murder of Mike Lawhon, the murder of the little girl, the underground show party murders. This is a rat's nest. They had to come up with some kind of other lame excuse to explain why Matt Hyman died, and I've suspected that this news station, CBS 7, that's blocked me, right, that's hidden all this information from the public, was party to trying to, create this cover-up for Matt Hyman's death. And that's what this video is from. And, but here, this is an old print screen I took, and it shows you a picture of Leslie here, okay? I said, after I survived the murder attempt, Detective Rosie Rodriguez asked me, did you put electricity on the tie wire? And she somehow knew about the night 2 weeks earlier when I put electricity in my doorknob. And I mentioned that earlier. That's a very important part. That was dirty cop Rosie Rodriguez. We're going to talk about her in a minute, too. I found this online. I don't know if it's the same person, the Leslie Reed. That's the same nurse. The reason I thought it might be her is because it showed widow. And I guess she might be a server at Rick's Cabaret, And so that was a long time ago when I... When I took that, okay. Let's see what we got. Okay, after I posted, and I guess Brian, he figured out that I'm all of a sudden going to go to social media and say that he threatened me, and he did. And then he posted this to my YouTube channel, and that's what I was saying earlier. This guy is an obsessive stalker. He threatened me a few years ago, right? Yesterday he comes to Nextdoor and he's defaming my character. I didn't even reply to him, I just reported him, to Nextdoor and didn't even reply. Today yesterday he's at the grocery store, right, and telling me to watch my back and making sure I know it's a threat, and so here's this cover up as far as I'm concerned. So I did confront Buddy Webb at United this afternoon. That's the grocery store. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I've tried to take the high road. I tried ignoring his constant comments and lies about myself and family, my wife's late husband. I thought he'd move on to bashing someone else and we'd be fine. The silence didn't make it go away. His mentions of me get him a lot of attention every time, right? Okay. Remember, I'm the survivor of a murder attempt. It looks like Matt died in my house. I don't know that, but that's what I'll speculate. He started mentioning myself and my family again recently. It's hurtful to people around me today. United kindly put my hand out, shook his hand, introduced and told him I didn't appreciate him speaking about my family. He said he didn't appreciate my threats. I don't remember making any. I showed you a print screen of it. I told him to mention my family again, and he better watch his back. He didn't say that. He just said you better watch your back. I was not intending a threat of physical harm. He's a frail, paranoid, sad old man. Insults, right? But I will not let him speak of my family without the consequence or of at least a confrontation. If he speaks of me and my family, I will confront him every time I see him. I will slap him with lawsuits every time. I'll make sure he knows I won't back down. If he starts picking on someone else who can't defend himself, I will be there to help as well. Please private message if you say anything said by my crew. The coward blocked me for the first time. I called him out on his lies. See, I blocked the guy and he's a stalker. He comes at me, on another website, and here he is at the grocery store. He won't leave me alone. If you're not sure who he is, I apologize. Worm on me about the end. I would suggest putting on the full cap, grab your space blanket and get some popcorn ready. It's a wild ride because he's got 50 homeowners across America documenting reporting people in the attic. He's got multiple people documented saying there's underground homes and tunnels here, including the one guy that was running for sheriff. It is a deep rabbit hole because he's got a whole bunch of evidence. He got proof he wasn't shot with his gun. Multiple proofs. Okay, and then right after this is a message I get on YouTube, right? Because here I blocked the guy again. I told you he's a stalker, right? And so here's this, whack bird, buddy, at it again, buddy. Do you realize that you're joking? Midland, everyone around here laughs at how ignorant Fruit Loop you are. Brian confronted you in your BS about his family that you run your mouth over. You do the same thing. I'll be see you soon. I'll be out from tunneling gear later. Okay, Chris M. And I'm like, well, let me take print screens of this, document it, because later that can be used in court. And then so I'm over here taking the print screens, and I noticed that account was created yesterday, the same day, right? I'm going, oh, look there. I blocked Brian, the stalker, and he went and created another account with a different name, and he's taking up for himself. That's what's going on. I put the URL, because if we had law enforcement, they could easily look that up, and I'll bet you anything that's what that is. I bet you that's Brian Hillman right here, more stalking, slander, the same stuff, and, that's what I'm doing. I mentioned here dirty cop Rosie Rodriguez. I'm going to talk about that for a minute, and then we'll be finished here, okay? I'm going to show you some pictures here. These are from from my security camera in my bedroom when I was ambushed and shot. They had tried to disable it, accidentally started. That's what these pictures busted them, because they were withholding the police report. They never planned on anybody knowing they were in my house staging the crime scene. And and I got videos on that. Okay, so here I'm going to show you a picture of Rosie Rodriguez right there. And since I didn't have the police report, it was illegally withheld. She was secret for 6 years. Of course, you could recognize her. She's one of the ones we recognized. You can see the date, 129. 3:55 a.m. I was in surgery at the time, okay? And then here's another picture. That's actually April Chandler searching my drawers that night, okay? And this is 3 days later, and here she is. And what's interesting, that's my security camera on the screen right there, And I've joked about this before, where she's pointing is, she's going, yeah, right here. That's where the tunnel is. This is, this is where we sell the kids to the trickers right here. And I don't know if that's what she said, but she's pointing to somebody in the room on my security screen outside my home, right? And I do believe that's what's going on is, right over there. That's where the trickers were coming, and they were using it for this house for sex trafficking people in the attic, okay? Found a child's toy in my attic. This is 3 days later, 2/1 right here. This was the only known entry. That's what I used to call it forever. I finally found out there was a police report for this. It was illegally withheld for 7 years, And then that's where we found out 6 of the 11 police officers identified by the private investigator had been illegally omitted, right? I mean, they were falsified the crap out of that police report. But the most important thing is it time-stamped 5 police officers, Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale, as being at or in my home when they were not seen arriving. And that told me that they were under my home, because all my other doors were bolted shut with extra locks. And so, and Dickey was in my home 4 minutes after Woodward and Naylor were seen. That's how I know they came in to my home from the underground trapdoor the ex-wife had already told me about, and from where I was shot from, which is now removed. It was removed while I was in the hospital. And once again, this is Rosie Rodriguez, and you can see timestamp February 1st, okay? Dirty cop Rosie Rodriguez. I just did a video, Rosie Rodriguez versus Nurse Cresswell, and I took the medical records here, this is the nurse's notes saying what I said, right? And then I took from the police report what Detective Rosie Rodriguez wrote and said what she said. And then somebody commented yesterday, yeah, buddy, but what people write doesn't mean it's true. And I said, well, of course not. But if you falsify a medical record or police report, that's a crime, okay? And you're gonna see, and that's what's pointed out in this video, that here on Nurse Cresswell, she's saying that Buddy's saying burglar alarms are going off over and over. I've got proof. Go look, there's proof, and then it timestamps Detective Rosie Rodriguez in the room when I'm saying that. So here I'm saying I'm under a home invasion. I have proof of this home invasion. Detective Rosie Rodriguez, she has a whole nother story. Buddy said he was locking up for the night, and he knocked his gun over and shot himself, And then here's a real big part. She says, Buddy said his phone was not charged, so I went outside and screamed for help. That was more lies, And I even made the point here. Buddy said he got in his blue 99 Dodge truck, and I got a purple truck. I didn't say that. My phone was fully charged, and the reason she made up that lie is because they had stolen my cell phone before they shot me by surprise, and I believe she knows about it, This one got thrown in there here. Remember, I said I was tear gassing the attic, and I think that was probably why Matt Hyman and his friends had come into my home, because I had got them good, right? The ex-wife had just left. I'm trying to stop the crimes. I set off that tear gas one night. The next day I heard them coughing. I was trying to, stop this on my own, not knowing they had a large gang of secret police, and, and I'd be ambushed and shot with my phone lines cut, But then it gets brought up in court because they're trying to make me look crazy. Back then, I didn't have proof that I wasn't shot with my gun. I didn't have 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic. I didn't have all these people documented saying tunnels underground homes are here. I didn't have Google Maps showing a large building in my backyard, But what I want to show you here is that this is the tear gas that I was using. And I never tear gassed my attic again after that day, Like I said, I think that might have been what happened. This is also having to do with Rosie Rodriguez. What this is I have videos on this called Follow the Money. And this is the ex-wife from a conversation recorded of a, you know, in that video, and I'm talking here, and I'm reminding her that she threatened me with extortion threats. She said, you're going to pay me $800 or $1,200 a month, or I'm going to lie about everything that I seen and tell everybody that you're crazy. And she says, I made a mistake. And I said, you're the only one who's going to make money off this house. That's what I'm telling her. And she said, I made a mistake, you know. And then she goes on to go, the truth is Greg is the one that told me to do it. Greg is the one that told her to try to extort $1,800 a month from me over the crimes at this house. And the threat was, if I didn't comply, she was going to tell everybody I was crazy. I didn't realize what a threat that was at the time, okay? And that was before I was ambushed and shot. Well, here, fast forward 22 months after the murder attempt and the protective order hearing, right? And that's where it's filed on me by her, lived 100 miles away, miles from here. I hadn't seen her and talked to her in a year and a half. You know, it's absurd that there's even a protective order, you know, case in the first place. I mean, absolute absurd. But you can see here, her, Rosie Rodriguez, did Mr. Webb seem delusional? That's how I describe him, because that's what they did. They went to court and called me crazy. Oh, he thinks people in the attic. Like I said, I didn't have 50 other homeowners documented reporting people in the attic back then, you know. And then the ex-wife here, he's very delusional, and he believed that I was part of a conspiracy against him. Now, let's go back here and look. Now, she admitted to trying to extort money from me, and her threat was, I'm going to call you crazy, and I didn't pay her, and she went to court, and she carried out her extortion threat, right? You know, in a law-abiding society, she would go to prison for that. We have no laws here. This is interesting. One of the security camera pictures. And what this is showing is Rosie Rodriguez leaned over my nightstand in my bedroom. That's where my stolen cell phone was found planted, okay? That's why I had my cordless phone that was fully charged, okay? And April Chandler is standing next to her, okay? And all the other police are gone out of the room, okay? So it looks like these two waited for the other police to leave the room, and then they went and planted my stolen cell phone, okay? When I, you know, because when I was ambushed and shot, my home phone lines were disconnected. I had no phones. I had no communications, and they had stolen my cell phone. You know, that's why I had the cordless in my pocket. But my cordless sat on the charge all the time. It's fully charged. And then I found that statement right here by Rosie. Said, Buddy said his phone was not charged. No, Buddy didn't say that. That cordless was fully charged, you know. It was it was disconnected. You know, when I got back home, my phone was back working. Once again, Rosie somehow knew that they stole my cell phone, cut my phone lines, and then shot me by surprise. This was premeditated, cold-blooded murder right here. And that's why I believe she's leaned over that nightstand. She is planting my stolen cell phone. It sure wasn't there when I shot. I looked everywhere for that cell phone. Here, this come out into the protective order hearing. And basically, before the hearing, my attorney notices that Rosie's over there sitting there with the ex-wife, you know, all chummy and buddies like, you know. That was weird, you know. So we get to court, and she just asked her out of the blue, do y'all know each other, you know? Oh, and come to find out, oh, yeah, we went to school, and I guess elementary and junior high. They're lifelong friends. They're school buddies, you know. And they had actually been in contact while we were married, okay? And this is Rosie Rodriguez that's caught in all this tampering with evidence, lying on police reports, and all this, you know. And then the ex-wife, where her former boyfriend said that he overheard her planning my murder to steal insurance with her corrupt police friends. And who was that corrupt police friends? Rosie Rodriguez, you know. These are the life insurance booklets that she took from my home just a few weeks before the murder attempt, and then she brought them back about a week before, and that's how, when I found out they were gone. What I was showing here, there was, this showed her there was a basic accidental death and a supplemental accidental death. So if her friend, Rosie Rodriguez, rules my murder an accident, it adds a 2 times annual base pay, okay, it's about $200,000, plus a $250,000, so we're talking close to $500,000 extra for Rosie Rodriguez ruling my murder an accident. And who would think that somebody under your home shot you, you know? And I was a problem for these criminals because I'm tear gassing the attic and contacting law enforcement. And what I didn't know is law enforcement was working with the criminals, you know? That's what was going on. Okay, I want to show you another Rosie Rodriguez story. This is the tripwire lie. That's what I call this. And it come out in sworn testimony at the protective order here, and they're asking about here about the shotgun. You find the shotgun, yes. It says, here's Rosie says, there was a tripwire that went across from one wall, from the south wall to the north wall, and it was connected to the shotgun. Okay, she made that up. That was another lie. You know, it was like Buddy said his phone wasn't charged. This was another lie. Because, and where's the proof, Buddy? There is no tripwire in evidence, right? None of the other 10 police that were seen and identified my house mentioned a tripwire, including the CSI that picked up my gun from the house. The only person that said anything about a tripwire was Rosie Rodriguez. And more than that, there's absolute proof showing I wasn't shot with my gun, okay? And so that was another lie by this dirty cop. That's what I'm saying, okay? Here's from more of the police report. Tony Barrett, he is the CSI. And what it's showing here, he says, I collected evidence from the scene that included a shotgun. So this is the crime scene investigator that picked up my shotgun. Now, I think it's pretty clear if there was a tripwire in my shotgun, he would have said something about it right there, right? The only person to mention a tripwire and did it under sworn testimony was Rosie Rodriguez. Now, remember, there's no tripwire in evidence, and proof shows I wasn't even shot with my gun. And here's even further proof. Tony Barrett checked in 4 live shotgun shells that were in my gun. Okay, they were live. He didn't check in an empty shell. If I had shot myself, there would have been an empty shell in that gun along with them 4 live shells, and it wasn't there. That was one of the proofs showing that I wasn't shot with my gun. There's multiple proofs proving I wasn't shot with my gun. And proof showing I wasn't shot with my gun is proof that somebody came to my home and shot me. Can we all agree to that, right? And then 50 other homeowners reporting people in the attic, right? And me reporting burglar alarms going off in the attic when somebody come to my home and shot me. Let that sink in what that means, okay? And so I was just going to show you dirty cop Rosie Rodriguez. And then it's found out earlier her last lifelong friend. I want to show you the timeline, and then we're going to end this. This is the 2 month. A lot of things were going on up to the murder attempt, okay? And I want to show you specifically Matt Hyman dies, and then 2 weeks later is the murder attempt on my life, okay? Premeditated. And I've wondered if that wasn't one of the motives for murder, because, maybe they were trying to blame me, just like Rosie Rodriguez. Did you put electricity on it? Talking about the tile on the tie wire on the doors, because I tie wired the spare door shut after I recognized somebody had been in my house again. But here, there was a lot of things happened. December 7th, 2011, the month before I'm ambushed and shot, my mom dies in Hobbs, New Mexico, with still unanswered questions to this day. I've long suspected mom's death might have a connection back to the crimes here, okay? And the ex-wife makes a suicide threat. That's a whole nother story. I went to with her to see her psychiatrist, and that's where I was sitting there, and that psychiatrist reminds her about the time that she got her daughter involved in prostitution, and you said, remember that time about the bikers and all that. That was all news to me that I that the doctor let me know or whatever. Okay, and here on December 20th, the police were called. She called the police that night, and that's the night they put me in the back of a police car, which already had a bag of marijuana laying in the seat, and then told me we better not be called here again for this stuff, okay? And so now it's real clear what they were trying to do, because they were involved in the underground homes and all that. But I didn't know about the underground homes at that time, right? And then when they left, the ex-wife told me, we're creating a document trail on you. And that's made me wonder if my murder wasn't being planned, 5 weeks in advance, okay? Here's separation. That was the night I said, I'm done. I'm finished, I mean, that was only a 3-month marriage, And then here, after Christmas, my son comes down for Christmas. But then Don Galloway, his grandpa dies in Amarillo, and he has to suddenly leave there on the 5th. And, so I haven't had anybody in my family helping me since then. Interestingly, Don and Ann had built my Hobbs home, and I believe that home in Hobbs is rigged, is another rigged home, And so I thought that was interesting, because what happened is my dad ends up marrying Ann Calloway. So here, my mom dies, then Don Calloway dies, then I'm shot, and then Dad marries Ann Calloway. Dad died in 2017. Here, after she's gone, I'm tear gassed in the attic. I'm trying to get rid of them. and I got them good. And then that's why I said I think it was retribution when they come in. They were inside my home. They come from underground in my home. I recognized somebody was trying to come in my bedroom, and then I built a safe room by putting electricity in my doorknob, and that's when it's believed that I suspect Matt Hyman died of a surprise heart failure. You know, that's what I was saying. That was all speculation. You know, I don't have proof of that, but I believe, you know, that's where the evidence is pointing, you know, and that's where I got the threats from Hillman. Okay. Life insurance books are returned there. The reason I have x-rays on that date on January 17th, because Dr. Hinton stated that he compared my x-rays from this day to this day, and he gave his assessment. But the thing was, I was shot 11 days later on this day. That was more the proof showing that they faked my x-rays, you know. I believe somebody was shot with a shotgun on this day, and that guy's missing his heel bone, so they took me into surgery. They cut my heel bone out to match them faked x-rays, okay? That's a whole nother story, but, you know, you know, all these things happen, you know. If we could only find out who was shot on the 17th, because I feel sure that happened. I filed for divorce right here 5 days before I'm ambushed and shot. But if I would have died by accident, or if Rosie Rodriguez would have ruled my murder an accident, then she was going to get this paid for and very special home with $1 million gun in her home in the backyard, along with about $650,000, you know, in assets, instead of getting nothing from a 3-month marriage that was ended under allegations that she was working with a prostitution ring. Okay, and then there's the murder attempt when you know, they cut my phone lines and shot me. Okay, and then here on the first surgery, and then the second surgery was a few days later. They tried to cut my leg off over and over and over and over. They're trying to cut the evidence off. Anyway, this is Buddy Webb. It is amazing what's going on, what's been allowed to go on, and you know, living under the threat every single day. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.